And while the US continues to pursue diplomacy, as we just heard, Russia made it clear it's not changing course until Crimea's referendum. And then we will find out Russia's next step in the region. Now, earlier I spoke with Kurt Volker, Executive Director of the McCain Institute for International Leadership and former US Ambassador to NATO. I asked him for his take on Friday's 6-hour session between John Kerry and Sergey Lavrov.
The Russians came in knowing what their intentions are. They did not change or give up or do anything different. And we come out of them with Russia still determined to see this referendum go through on Sunday and eventually annex this territory. And they don't believe anyone is going to stop them.
Something else that was very interesting that John Kerry said, I mean, both the United States and Europe have said that they're not going to recognize the referendum or its outcome. But John Kerry came out and he said, when asked for his response to the referendum, he said, well, I will respond when Vladimir Putin responds. If the Russian president decides to annex Crimea, there'll be one response. If he decides, well, expanded autonomy, there'll be another response. That is a tacit recognition of the referendum, isn't it?
It is, in a way. He didn't mean it that way, but that's the sort of the facts that we're dealing with. This referendum is going to happen. They are going to vote to join Russia. Russia is going to welcome them in. And what Kerry was trying to do with his stop in London was to create alternative scenarios where you can tell the Russians, if you guys take this off-ramp, his words, then there won't be these serious repercussions. Whereas if you do annex this territory, recognize this referendum, there will be much more serious consequences. These are the areas of sanctions, both targeted sanctions against individuals, perhaps some companies, economic, maybe even financial. And he's trying to put that out there so that Russia faces a choice and chooses the lesser of the two. The reality, however, is I think Russia has already decided it wants this territory. It views this as a permanent land grab, whereas sanctions are temporary, and it is intending to take this, use military force as necessary, does not see anyone willing to use military force to stop that, and go on to the next steps, which could be a referendum in Donetsk. We saw the riots there just the other day, possibly something in Kharkiv. And then at a point, if they do feel pressure, they might fall back a little bit, but still keep Crimea.
Right, because the other view is that this referendum is not an end in itself, but it's a means to an end.
That's right.
That it becomes a fact on the ground, and then Putin uses it as a negotiating tactic.
Absolutely, absolutely. And he wants to keep going and keep going. And he may fall back eventually, but he's not going to fall back to something less than Crimea. He's going to keep that and see what more he can get.
Is this about Crimea as a whole, or is it about Russian control over that port, the Black Sea Fleet base?
Combination. It's a combination. There is the practical military benefit to Russia of direct control of the facilities in Crimea and its Russian fleet that's there. There's also the psychological dimension of this being a part of Russia, the greater Russia concept. There's also a psychological dimension about applying pressure and influence around the wider neighborhood, where there are other Russian-speaking communities that Russia feels that it should have some oversight over in some way, and that it should have the ability to pressure those neighboring countries.
Ambassador, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.